Hello and welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new here. I'm Death by Pony, and today we're hopping into more Derek DLC. Like I said, I went into this DLC expecting it to take 45 minutes, took 8 hours. So, without further ado, let's hop into this. Derek wanted to pop over to his parents' house one more time. He was still itching to get his hands on Nico's Switch, but there was a blank schedule besides that. No longer travel promises to fulfill or plans to keep up with. To balance out the one free day, the next was set to be extra full. Tomorrow evening, you would be leaving Prism Vista City. Your bus ticket was already purchased. You needed to pack and prepare somehow to do everything you could ever want to before it was too late. Truly grasping your own departure wasn't easy. So much had happened, but it all felt way too fast, like a much anticipated audiobook set to 5 times normal speed. Your life was with Derek was very nearly only a memory. Your advantage at the water park had taken a place in your mind right by the time you got to go to the boardwalk with the Suarez family. Whether it was years ago or only a day ago, over was over. Being closer in time made no more reachable in the present. Oh. Water. A cheery holler from the hall shook you out of your own head before you could get entirely lost in it. Hey, Ari, I'm ready to go. Finally, I've been fading away out here. Let's go see some family and feel alive again.
Totally.
That's a plan. His eyes twinkled boyishly as he grinned at you. Your lips quirked up at the infectious enthusiasm. Everyone there is looking forward to seeing you. Come on. Derek led the charge out of the front door, which he locked behind him, and onward until you'd arrived at the Suarez family front door. You rang the bell and didn't have to wait long before Mrs. Suarez' eager face appeared. The expectant smile was identical to the one she wore when you were first reunited.
Good to see you.
Good morning, Derek. Ari, welcome back. She ushered the two of you inside with as much gumption as your original arrival as well. Before you could question that curiosity, you were confronted by another. The living room you'd been led into was entirely empty aside from you and Derek and his mom. 3 Suarez men were missing. George could be on his way. Nicholas might be waiting for the guest in his room. Perhaps Mr. Suarez needed to use the bathroom. Separately, any of those possibilities made sense, yet all of them being cast at once felt odd. Should we have come later? No, your timing is perfect. She smiled at you wider, but the leading tone of her voice and the Nicholas-esque gleam in her eyes wasn't particularly comforting. It only made you more certain that something was going on. Ooh. You weren't going to ask, but the words slamming against the back of your throat when George and Nicholas sprung from behind the chair. Surprise! How did they fit? That's what really got you. The Suarez living room wasn't suited for hiding. These men hid behind a couch. And if you look, I don't think there's really space behind that couch to hide. Unless they pulled it away from the wall. But if it had been against the wall before and it was now pulled out from against the wall, I'm pretty sure I would at least hope my sprite was just like, what the heck, guys? Why is the couch not against the wall? You know? But for now, let's just assume that it was against the wall, not against the wall this whole time. The boys must have been lying on the ground, pressed together, and you had to be positioned in the exact right angle not to see them tucked away there. Your wide-eyed expression was their reward. The 2 jumping jacks laughed openly, and even kind Miss Suarez clapped her hands together in satisfaction at your slack jaw. What's the surprise for? You stammered out the question, still in daze from the entirely unexplainable jump scare. What do you think, genius? The voice, that sharp quip, unmistakable. You hadn't managed to blink since the younger Suarez shot, and the trend continued. Pointing your dry eyes towards the kitchen, you had to wonder if you were seeing things. Somehow, magically, your older sister had appeared out of thin air to leer at you smugly from over the counter. The laws of space and time were no consideration when it came to teasing you. Liz? Duh, of course. That stunt wasn't their idea. You stumbled down on the couch and you sit down. You rushed over and hugged her. You ran up to Liz and pinched her cheeks if she was real. You ran up to Liz and pinched her. That's what she deserved for sucking you. You stared speechless and totally disbelieved. Your eyes darted back and forth between her and the Swords. We rushed over and hugged her. We're a hugger. You ripped your feet from where they had taken root and flung your arms around the delicate shoulders of your only big sister. She held you back and flipped her bright orange ponytail over her shoulders like she was donating a scarf of the finest silk. Got you. Yep, she had, and you couldn't have been happier. The persistent self-satisfaction Liv had radiated throughout the room was reeled into riffle after softer morning genuine pleasure. How good to see you, kiddo. What happened to being so busy, Liz? That was merely a ploy. I'm never too busy for you. Or a bonus trip where all I had to do was show up. Huh? What do you mean? Liz laughed with an all-knowing air. It was a sound you were very familiar with. I do love you, but I wasn't going to arrange an entire trip to join you now when I already had to prepare for one for Mom's party in less than a month. You can thank your beefcake friend for handling the details, his parents for letting me borrow their guest room, and that's how it happened. He's nosy as well as persistent. Derek was involved. You had felt nothing could shock you after that, after the Liz reveal, but you had been proven wrong. The man who suddenly had a spotlight thrown onto him stood with an awkward stiffness. His arms were folded so tight the form might have been chiseled out of stone. That's supposed to be a compliment or an insult?
Nope.
Neither. It's the truth.
Might try.
I'm going to take the positive way then. Good for you. Derek, you really helped Liz with her trip out here. Derek grinned shyly. The decision to view his actions in good light was being put to the test now. It was your turn to talk about them. The sibling group wouldn't have been complete without Liz. Who knows if she'd have time to come to the city during your mother's anniversary. Nicholas and George missed her. Especially Bor Yi. Nico shot out that commentary without looking away from his phone. George glared completely unseen by the target of the daggers, but he didn't vocalize his disagreement with the statement. And we figured you wouldn't mind seeing your sister when she came by, so we worked it out. Surprise. Thanks, Derek. Wouldn't mind. This is amazing. Derek Suarez, you are too nice. Okay, I get it. You didn't have to do that. Derek Suarez, you are too nice.
I got you.
I'd say I'm exactly nice enough. Bashfulness crept over his features even more, though like Derek's general perspective, it was a good, kind bashful rather than a bad one. He was pleased with himself. And then the door at the very end of the hall burst open. The entire room simultaneously peered in that direction. Surprise! Mr. Suarez had finally made an appearance of his own, and it was an entrance. He waved his hands in the air as he walked out with a jaunty high step. The parade of unexpectedness that day was endless. Before you could even ask the question, Mr. Suarez explained what that was about. Mr. Suarez was going to be behind the counter. However, I banished him to his bedroom until he was certain Liz's scheme was finished. He was laughing too much. He was going to ruin it. I was about to get him myself, but he managed to figure it out. Every single one of Mr. Suarez's sons nodded in support of their mother's decision, including Derek, who wasn't there when it happened. He must have been able to imagine it easily enough. Yes, I didn't get to stay, but I could still join a little late. It's an extra surprise. That's making lemons into lemonade. You never had a reason to wonder how Derek ended up with so much optimism.
That's what I like to hear.
Very good. Thank you for being a good sport, my wonderful husband.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, my lovely wife, and welcome to you, Ari and Derek. We're all here.
Right.
That's right, we are. The Payne and Suarez family enjoyed a mini reunion full of affection before eventually things settled back into a casual atmosphere. The addition of Liz into the mix was truly seamless. George and his parent bustled about the kitchen to cook their own late breakfast. They had no time for food while waiting to make the grand reveal. Nicholas elected to help by not getting in the way. He sat at the table with his face on his phone. The youngest had been completely sucked into the screen in a way you hadn't seen before. You stuck with your sister on the couch. Derek flanked her on the other side. She recounted her traveling adventures, including At one point, she too had to ride the bus, and that it actually took a wrong turn. Since when did the bus drivers take wrong routes? Liz demanded out of the air. Her long list of points was worth noting, continued right up until a new announcement was cheerily made. Food's done. Hooray! Egg slashes and well-seasoned diced potatoes had been prepared with fresh fruit available on the side. The whole room smelled of pepper, garlic, and a host of other savory spices. Derek already ate, and Liz politely passed on the meal as well. She had way too many snacks during the overnight trip and couldn't have another bite. You decided to decline serving too. You realized you were still a bit hungry and accepted the offer. You didn't know about them, but you weren't gonna pass on the food. You decided to have a little, not wanting to reject their generosity. Whew. Your very kind host stood aside so you could get your meal first. You didn't want to keep them waiting by disagreeing with the order. You got off your seat and filled a dish with some breakfast and returned to your place by Liz. Right before George Butt made contact with his seat, he paused midair. Oh, wait, I forgot the chili flakes.
It's no problem.
Sit, said, I've got you. Derek winked at his little brow, said the younger brother plopped down into the chair. Scrambled eggs piled high on George's plate jiggled. Derek pushed off a cushion, took a few strides into the kitchen, and retrieved a tube of deep red edible confetti. Rather than walking over to the table, Derek stayed right there. And lobbed George chili flakes over the counter. Heads up. The receiver snatched it right out of the air. George looked at the item now in his hand and chuckled. Good pass. I'm not rusty yet. Derek saluted from the distance as George began to liberally sprinkle chili flakes all over every part of his meal. On the other end of the dark wood table, another familiar exchange occurred. Miss Suarez rubbed her little child's bowed back and spoke to him gently. Nico, are you eating? Her sweetness got a lukewarm shrug of one shoulder from Nicholas. His phone remained in his grasp, and he centered his attention. Food wasn't enough to sway his focus. I'm just gonna have a bowl of cereal. Hey, Nico, are you texting someone? Somebody is busy, boy, you teased. How sweet. You made your love for cereal public, you joked. Yeah, I'd have cereal too if I needed to eat. Maybe you should eat more. A bowl of cereal isn't much balanced meal. Texting someone? Huh. Oh no, it's nothing. Nicholas tucked his device closer to him. He wanted to ask what he was doing that was so important, but he definitely wouldn't tell you. Miss Suarez gave the teen a final pat and left it there. She was content that at least he wasn't going hungry. Unexpectedly, your ears perked at the small squeak and then an unmistakable rush of running water. Once again, your gaze went to the opposite side of the room. Derek's back was turned to the clatter he was making continued with the clanking of pans. The actual reason why Derek had gone to the kitchen and stayed there became evident. He intended to wash the dishes. Boo! Nowhere but the Suarez household would such a gesture be met with swift dissent, but Derek and his impulse to do everything for everybody was infamous.
Please, don't
Son,
worry.
you're our guest. And you didn't even eat. You can't be the one who cleans up. Liz acted mostly as an observer to the family circus, though couldn't help to skip about it under her breath. What an absolute menace of politeness. Derek Suarez, get back over here. Don't leave me, you jokingly reached out to him. I can help too. No, let me do it. Boo! Derek Suarez, get over here. Your justifiably demand didn't go unheard. Airy. Derek's face turned just enough to peek at you. A tiny frown pulled at the corner of his mouth. I'm serious, you better not wash those dishes. Fine. With drooping shoulders, his head hung low, and dragging steps, Derek retreated from the kitchen. What wasn't low anymore was the angle of his mouth. That had perked upwards.
My thoughts
I
exactly.
couldn't have said that any better myself. Miss Suarez and his junior gave a round of applause. The eldest son left the sponge behind. Soon breakfast at the Suarez home was finished. Nico did put his phone down for long enough to pour cereal and milk into a bowl and eat. The kitchen was cleaned by George and his parents. Derek remained seated with his idle hand in his lap like a proper guest. He'd always been at your house growing up. So, Nicholas spoke without being spoken to for the first time in and age, and more amazingly, the phone was gone. It must have returned to the comfort of Nicholas's romper pocket. Want to see the pool? There's one here too. We can dip our feet in, get some sun, hang out. A pool? As a young lady raised by the shore, she had an ingrained beach snobbery, but she didn't need a glare from Derek to correct her attitude. I'd check it out. Okay, we'll see how it stacks up to the old one. Derek piped up in agreement as George nodded along.
Let's get to it.
Let's do it.
Go on.
That's a perfect plan. You go enjoy yourselves. Dad and I will stay here, take a break from parental supervision. Miss Suarez had a very protective proper chortle. They certainly do not need any supervision. They are mature adults in their own right. Besides, Nico. But he's close. His childlike gleefulness was followed by a frustrated sigh that was distinctly teenager-like. We're leaving now. Nicholas said we, but obviously was going with or without anybody else. He was grown up enough to make that decision. See you. Nicholas slipped the key off the hook by the door and was out. Hurried goodbyes were exchanged, then the rest of the sibling group made beeline to catch up with Nico. Your target was strolling through the hall, hands on hips, and whistling a tune. His tersenses had cleared entirely as soon as he had left. Nicholas cast a glance back at the crowd stumbling upon him. He offered a smile and struck up a casual conversation. I've gone down to the pool at least a couple minutes almost every day since summer started. It's basically a ritual. That's cool. You need a daily dose of chlorine. That I do, bro. The party of 5 continued to the ground floor of the apartment condo, and the back. Nicholas took a keycard for the pool door. He already had it on him before even suggesting the idea. He meant it when he said he was going their regular occurrence. The normal key he took must have been for the house. The area itself felt familiar, as if you were the one going there every day instead of Nico. A pale blue rectangle surrounded by rows of identical lounge chairs. It was a pool. The pool on the other apartments was much better. This pool was set up. This new pool was set up. Step up from the other. You'd like both pools Suarez had brought you to. Just another generic shared pool. This one's a little bit classier. Seems more modern, but not just because I upgraded to keycards. You're already glad Nicholas suggested it. While everyone else stalled at the entrance, Nicholas kept on walking. He headed straight to the edge, crouched low to roll up his pant leg, shifted onto his butt, and dunked his feet into the water. Liz and George shared a side-eyed glance. There had been an assumption that you would be hanging out together. Nicholas, however, didn't show much interest in that sentiment. His mood had been all over the place, and ultimately Liz and George elected to give him space. The two camped out on 2 side-by-side lounge chairs, close enough to keep an eye on Nico, but not enough for conversation to be audible between the pair. And Solo, Derek watched the chips fall. Despite this supposedly being fun and the sun adventure with the whole gang, he was frowning. The water sloshed Nicholas' kicking feet. His eyes were towards the sky, and those long strands of brown hair were nearly brushing the concrete tiles. He felt much further away than he physically was.
Anyway,
I'm gonna go sit with Nico. Feet in pool is the only way to go, and he might like the company. Would you mind if I wanted just be me and him? It's been a while since he's gotten any one-on-one time. Of course I wouldn't mind. You deserve quality time together. I understand. I'd prefer to talk to him too, but he is your brother. I won't push my way in. I think I'll survive it. Derek, you'll be like 4 feet away, you tease. I'm not mad, but it's a little disappointing. You don't have to worry about me for that. You're so polite. Of course I wouldn't mind. You deserve quality time together. Thanks, Ari. Maybe it's not a big deal, but I hate to make you feel like I ditched you out of the blue. Derek, it's okay. You go to your brother.
See you.
Yeah, see you. You waved one another off, parted ways. You were assigned compassion were stretched out quite comfortably as you approached. Neither lifted their heads from the rest under them, but their eyebrows went higher.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey. I have arrived. You took the chair on George's left, you took the chair on Liz's right. You stayed standing in front of the lounges. You sat on the floor in front of the lounges. You sat on the edge of Liz's chairs. You sat on the edge of George's chair. I would take my own next to my sister. It was free and next to your sis. That's all you needed. She watched you intently as you settled in. How kind of you to spend time with your older sister. Your charming gentleman is in the other direction. I missed you, Liz, you said sincerely. How I've missed your snark, Liz, you teased. You're welcome. I came for George, actually. Hey, you're the one who abandoned me for George. I feared Nicholas would prefer some alone time with Derek. I missed you. It was true you'd been happy getting to see Derek, but that didn't mean you'd miss the chance to be with your only sister. All the playful snides Lid had drained away. I missed you too. Then Liz primly smoothed her bumper of crinkles while she worked the sentimental wrinkles out of her expression. Well, before you arrive, Borgie and here mentioned the recent Father's Day celebration that happened and how mild it was. Fitting for him, isn't it? And she just had to give her usual Elizabeth Brat comment right now. Their plastic seats creaked as Liz and George stretched their torsos to lob mutual glowers across the space between them. And then they fell back down, all smiles and snickers. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, remember to hit like. That way I know you're enjoying the content I'm making for you. Remember to hit subscribe. That way YouTube will bring you back here so you can see what happens next. And I won't take up any more of your time. I hope you have a good day. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye.